Welcome back. Today we're learning about school bus stop safety. Kevin Harrison is back to go into further detail about keeping students safe at the bus stop. And Kevin, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
What would you say to parents like me who would say, you're not going to ride a bus, I feel safer, better taking you to school?
So I think that's an interesting feeling. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration would say that students are 70 times more likely to make it to school safely if they ride in a school bus than if they take a passenger vehicle.
70 times more likely?
70 times more likely to get to school safely. And it's because this is the most highly regulated vehicle on the road. It has federal motor vehicle safety standards. It's big, it's brightly colored, it's got a lot of lights on it, and it's situated high above the roadway. So in accidents or collisions, the vehicle that fares the worst is the vehicle that hits the school bus, not the school bus. Because that school bus is big, it's heavy, it's got an extremely regulated environment that the students are in. And so really, those students are very, very safe in school buses.
Well, and if you've ever been in a carpool line, and many of you out there probably have, I mean, there's a lot of cars. And a lot of kids getting out of cars and running, and cars coming. I could see where clearly it would be safer to be on a bus and get pulled right up to the front door.
That's true. And, you know, can you imagine, right now in North Carolina, approximately half of all students, a little more than half of all students, are transported to school via school bus. Can you imagine taking that same school where half the students are arriving by school bus and putting them all in cars? The traffic would be amazing around that school. Those carpool lines would take forever. School bus transportation is a really important part of how kids get to and from school.
Well, let's talk about ways that and they're probably very obvious ways that people don't think about in reducing the risk at a bus stop. It's not just the cars. There's also students and parents involved, and the bus driver and all of that. How would you, any tips as to how you might reduce that risk?
So really the risk at school bus stops is related to unusual things occurring. Okay? For most of the students' lives, most likely, you get to the bus stop, the bus arrives, you step up into the vehicle, there's no real issues. And you do that from kindergarten through 12th grade, and everything goes perfectly fine, twice a day, and then the real risk comes in when something unusual happens. A car comes down that road that's not usually on that road, or someone of the motoring public is distracted by a cell phone or something else going on around them. So the biggest safety issue at school bus stops is unusual events occurring in what the student has always found to be an extraordinarily safe environment.
Now, parents, what role do they play? I know I didn't want to get out of bed, like ever, when I was a kid. But I got to believe, you know, getting to the bus stop on time and things like that.
Certainly. Getting to the bus stop on time is one really essential piece, because if you're at the bus stop on time, I suggest early. If you're at the bus stop on time or early, then you are in a safe, you have found a place to be, and you are waiting for the bus to arrive. So when the bus arrives, you can focus your attention on what's going on in the road and around the bus. If you arrive late at a school bus stop and you're trying to run after it, or you miss it, and you're like, I know there's a stop down the road a ways, I'm gonna just really run flat out, try and get to the next stop. Your focus becomes solely on the fact that you have now missed the bus or are about to miss the bus, and that you've got to find some way to nod. And that type of activity is inherently extraordinarily dangerous, because your focus should be on your safety and the roadway, and not, I've got to get somewhere, and have this singular focus of getting somewhere in a timely fashion. It takes all of your focus away from the things that keep you safe.
What about bus drivers? What role do they play? And over the years, I know they have to go through some training, so how has that evolved?
So school bus driver training has evolved a lot. I mean, back in the 70s and 80s, you saw a lot of school bus drivers that were just high school kids. They had a bus route in the afternoon. They were a high school kid. In the mid-'80s, like about 1986 or so, that changed, and bus drivers became an all-professional force, where you had to have a commercial driver's license. You had to have classroom training. Right now, that's 3 days of classroom training. Then you had to have testing for commercial driver's license, just the same training that truck drivers receive, but in addition to the training the truck drivers receive, very specific training related to driving a school bus and having passengers. And then you also have to have behind the wheel training and skills testing, where folks from DMV, the DMV School Bus and Traffic Safety Division, come out, train you for multiple days behind the wheel and make sure that you're going to be a safe operator.
So I don't want to let the viewing public, I don't want them to feel like, you know, we've been talking about all the bad things that could happen. And it is rare. It's much rarer than it was. So last tip you would give the viewers.
My last tip is just keep your kids well informed about both school bus safety and pedestrian safety, because they're in the most danger when they are outside of that school bus. So you want them aware of what's going on the road. You want them to avoid any distractions. Anytime you're near a road, you shouldn't have anything which prevents you from seeing or hearing or paying attention to the road. So cell phones are not a good idea. Any headphones that you put on your ears are not a good idea, especially while you're moving. And if you have to cross the road, look for the driver's hand signal. In North Carolina, over the past few years, we have added a hand signal for school bus drivers to communicate with the students on when it is safe for the students to cross the road. So they can make eye contact with the driver, wait for the driver to assess the whole situation, and then have the driver give them a signal that the driver sees that things are under control and that it's safe to cross the road. So make sure that they're paying attention, that they're waiting for that driver's signal, and that they're utilizing anything they can do to pay attention when exiting and entering that school bus, or anytime they are exiting and entering the roadway. It's that same adage, look both ways before crossing the street.
I've heard that a number of times growing up. I think that's good advice. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Stick around, because when we come back, we're celebrating a group of 6th graders from Holly Grove Middle School who have won an award for their efforts to make school bus stops safer.